So, Julie, as we've talked about before, the IEP team, the Individualized Education Program team, is actually outlined by law as to who is required to be there, okay? And the very first required individual at an IEP team is who?
The parent.
The parent, right? Now, that's a little bit trickier than just the parent. The parent is actually defined by law. A parent means a biological or adoptive parent of a child, a foster parent, a guardian, an individual acting in the place of a biological parent or adoptive parent, including a grandparent, step-parent, or other relative with whom the child lives, or an individual who is legally responsible for the child's welfare, or a surrogate parent.
So a parent's role can be interpreted in a variety of ways.
Right. So the whole idea, though, is, of course, that the person who is living with, is responsible for the child, is serving in the role of that child's parent, is the first required member of the team. And there's historical and good reason for that, Julie.
Right.
And of course, what it is that Congress thought when they enacted the IDEA that in most circumstances, the substantive appropriateness of programs, so the real is the actual education, a good education for this child, that those needs would be met most often when parents are meaningful participants in the development of their child's IEP.
And oftentimes parents or guardians or grandparents or whomever we're dealing with, in my experience, are often surprised to find out that they're actually legal members of their child's IEP team. And I think the most important thing is that you should know that a parent and the role that was defined, that was listed, it's just so important to know that you are a legal member of the team.
You're the first required member, and it's so important, in fact, as a legal matter that you be required to attend this meeting, that your school district is mandated by law to maintain records of their efforts to get you there.
Right.
They're required to hold the meeting at times that are mutually convenient.
Right.
They're required to provide alternative means for you to participate, such as by phone if you had to, okay? Because parents work, sometimes they can't get there. There are so many requirements in the IDEA, not just in the definition of the fact that the parent is the first listed member, but the fact that the whole cornerstone and so many of the procedures say, look, not only is the parent required to be there, but you need to do your darndest as a school district to get them there, because we know that the outcome of that IEP is presumed to be better and really get at the child's needs if the person who lives with this child, who cares for this child, is the first person who's participating. And that's just so important because there are so many things, school districts, teachers change year after year. There's a lot of turnover, but the parent presumably, and sometimes that's not the case, which is why there are a lot of definitions of parent.
Right.
But the parent presumably has a history with the child, has known the child's development, understands what has and hasn't worked for them educationally in the past, can share what's happening outside of school. There's so many ways in which that's important.
Right. And so the point is that you matter and you're the most important team member at your child's IEP.